Hey guys, Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're going to be tackling the question of what is the maximum number of sets you can get to in ODST Firefight, and what happens if you actually pass it. So, to put this to the test, when I first tackled this, I had no idea what the max value was. So, I figured I would just set up these special modded crates here that have like a field around them that instant kill any enemies that drop by. So I'll place them under the phantoms, and when the enemies drop down, they would die instantly. And I did this on a PC where I would just let it run for like a very long time. I actually let this experiment run for over 2 weeks straight, and I got pretty far with the sets. But, well, I did not hit the maximum set with it. See, at first, my guess was that like Bungie maybe set like an artificial set limit at like maybe 999 or 1000 or something like that. But I was actually wrong. See, I did hit set 999, and after the whole bonus round and everything, it passed 999, hit 1000, and I thought, okay, maybe 1000 was the maximum, but nope, not 1000 either. It kept going and going, and I got like to like around like 1100 or something like that, or over 1100 sets, and like I said, that took like over 2 weeks to do. I just left the PC running like this, like non-stop for like over 2 weeks straight. And you know, surprisingly, like you can see like at the timer in top right, it's been running for a very long time. After like 2 weeks straight, ODST actually still runs on MCC. Like it's a pretty solid PC port. I gotta say, like it remains stable enough to run like this for over 2 weeks straight, and it probably could have kept going. Of course, performance did degrade a little bit. You could see like it stutters a little bit after a while, so it's not like the most playable experience, but it's pretty interesting that ODST actually lasted that long. But anyways, after I passed like over 1,000 sets and it kept going, I had no idea what the max set could be at this point. So I actually consulted my friend Nibre, and he told me that most likely, you know, the type of variable used to keep track of the sets was a 16-bit signed integer, which is, you know, the type of variable used in programming languages to store numbers in this case. And the max value of a 16-bit signed integer in this case is 32,767. So that should have been the max set. So I found another way to test this out instead of like waiting. Like it would have taken me years at this rate to get to 1 year to get to 32,767. So I did a little bit more modding, and I modded it so that Firefight starts at around like 32,765, and I just let it run from there till it hits the maximum, which we're about to hit right here. So that's why like the time now is only like 25 minutes in, because I started it at like a very late round, and it actually works at that point. And you know, at these like really high rounds, or these really high sets, I should say, it's the you know, it still applies. It still does all skulls on every set. But now, as you can see, we've hit the max set. 32,767 is indeed the max set in ODST Firefight. But what happens if you beat this set? What happens if you pass it, actually? So, something pretty interesting does happen. So here, we're on a bonus round at the end of this set, and, you know, like I said, this number is, like, physically the max limit of the set counter, because the 16-bit integer that the set counter uses, it physically cannot go higher. That's just like a limitation of the type of variable used in this programming language. But what happens if we keep going? Well, after this set, the maximum set, it actually resets. Not to 0 though. It resets to the minimum of a 16-bit signed integer, which in this case, the minimum is negative 32,768. So I was actually surprised, because I know in like other games that are like wave based, like zombies, I don't remember exactly like if all the zombie games do the same, but I think like they hit like, you know, like a maximum zombie round and just stay at that round, although that's like an artificial limit in those games. And I think there's other games where if you hit the max limit, it resets back to 0 or something like that. But in the case of ODST Firefight, it resets back to the minimum limit of the variable type used for this set counter. And yeah, it goes all the way back there, and interestingly enough, the skulls used, they also reset actually. So basically, like, the skull difficulty does reset with the sets as well. So I guess the game is programmed so that anything above like anything below set 5 does not use like all skulls on. We're actually back to just like the starting skulls, as if we're on round 0, even though we're like really far below that. Now at this point, because we're in negatives, if we keep going, if we keep letting the sets go, eventually, you'll finish the set, and it will actually keep adding. It's still adding 1 to the set counter, and because we're negative, when you add 1, the negative number actually goes down. So now it's at 32,766 instead of 77 or 78 earlier. So this means that if I let this run for like a year with this, theoretically, after like a year, this will eventually, the set counter will eventually hit 0 again, and then it'll proceed again normally, as if like, you're back to the beginning. And then it'll proceed all the way back to the max limit of 32,767 sets again, and it'll probably reset back to negative 32,768. And it'll keep going on like that infinitely, assuming the game doesn't like crash, or like the memory doesn't run out of memory at some point. But like one of the side effects of like letting the game run that long is there's a lot of graphical glitches, especially like if some things don't despawn properly. You can see like a lot of visual glitches all around the map, plus the performance degrades and like the frame stutters every now and then. But overall, like, even after like 1,160 sets, the game still runs. It didn't crash or anything, which is pretty impressive actually, because if you remember like old launch MCC way back, that was like not the most stable version, and some games like had crashes at the time too and stuff like that. But with this PC, I did this on PC obviously, but with this port on PC, it's solid enough, especially for ODST, to run this long without crashing or any other major issues. But anyways, one last thing I want to show you now is, this is after I ended the 1,160 sets. This is the post-game carnage report for that first run experiment. And as you can see, there's quite a few interesting things here. The post-game carnage report actually has its own limits as well, which we definitely maxed out. Like the time it tracked, I'm pretty sure the timer like capped out at a certain limit. The set counter there, it does count correctly, like over 1,000, but it like goes like out of bounds because the number is way too long, and they never expected it to go that far. Also, the maximum amount of kills you can have, like overall, is 1,023, just like in Halo 3. And here, with each enemy kill, this is really interesting actually. So like drones, jackals, grunts, they have a max kill limit that the post-game carnage tracks of 2,048, whereas the brute seems to have a limit of 4,092. I'm not sure if that's just because like I ended it right on 4,092, or if that's the max limit, but it might be the max limit. And I'm not sure about the hunter either. I'm pretty sure like there weren't that many hunters spawned, so that's why the number is low. But it's interesting that like, those 3 enemies, drones, jackals, and grunts, they have like a smaller max limit than the brutes have. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure like why they use like different tracking, or why they have different like artificial max limits. But everything else, like kills, max limit of 1023, and all your medals, each medal you can also only have a maximum of 1,023 of each medal. So you can see here, after like a couple weeks, I did rack up a lot of medals, but each one of them did not go past 1,023. So that's another little interesting thing with the post-game carnage report there. But everything else it does track okay. Like the score seems to track fine, but there are quite a few limits that we pushed for MCC and ODST in this case. But yeah, so there you guys have it. That is the max number of sets you can do in Firefight, which technically it's infinite, but the number does not go past 32,767. It'll just keep looping infinitely. But anyways, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video and found it to be interesting. And if you did, as always, make sure to leave a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if there's something to check out or look into, just let me know. But other than that, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye guys!